You join me with a bunch of boxes taped together. Now this was supposed to just be a computer case that I wanted to buy, but when I saw all the other things the seller had for ridiculously low prices, I decided to just throw it all together and use the cheapest shipping method available. This is not a light affair. I carried this set of boxes for 3 blocks, and then when I got to my car I couldn't even put it in the boot because of the poor parking that happened behind me. But I managed to get it home. So this is the first episode of Untested, where I buy random bits of untested hardware and then test it myself. What do we have here? Okay, well I guess it's out of the box now. A very dirty socket 478 cooler and CPU, a Celeron with bent pins. Wow, a lot of bubble wrap. I can reuse that, so that's a good deal. Power supply, labeled as untested. From L&C, well, that's a reputable name if there ever was one. And a lot of DVD drives. So this is the other plan I had for cases where the front 5 1/4 inch drive bays covers are missing. I can just plump in some of these DVD drives to fill the holes. That's a CD drive. Well, really going back in time here. One that claims that it should work. SATA drive from Superwriter. Okay, and on to the last box. Comes out splat. So we have a couple of more drives over here, one from Hewlett-Packard, CD-ROM, so that's very old. And a lot of bubble wrap that I'll save for later. So let's open this case up and see what's inside, because it's definitely not going to be a computer. Some more bubble wrap for the collection. Okay, a lot of cables. Let me just throw that on the table. And here is our first untested motherboard with backplate and a CPU installed. Ooh, an extra motherboard with bloated caps, also with I/O shield and CPU. Looks nice. Pretty sure that's not supposed to be like that, but hey, it is untested. So this is the case inside. It looks a lot better than some of the cases we've had on here before, with a power cord so that the power supply can sit in the front of the case. A very compact design. Here we've got all our drives. Should last a long time, untested power supply, and our dirty motherboards. So these motherboards are DDR1 and DDR2 boards, and unfortunately I don't have any modules like that, so that's something I'm going to have to buy extra. Let's check out this board. Looks like it's got a Celeron CPU, 3.06 GHz. Seems to be in okay condition. You just remove the battery with a knife. Clean up the CPU and remove it, because these motherboards need to get some serious cleaning done. And this is our second motherboard, which actually does come with a cooler, a very dirty cooler. and it's also missing one of the pins. Not the cleanest motherboard there ever was, but it's untested. Finally, our bloated caps motherboard, which appears to be in much better condition and is the newest of these motherboards. It's our preferred method for cleaning computer parts. So I'm going to be using the dishwasher today, and unlike previous times, this time I'm going for really heavy detergent, the engine cleaner that we used on the previous case. I'm going to spray these boards down front and rear with this engine cleaner. And you can already see some of the dirt dripping off those boards. So let's start it up. Next up, I'm going to look at these coolers, remove the fans, and see what condition they're in. Maybe try to clean them up. And I think they can also join the motherboards inside the dishwasher. So the CPU with the bent pins, we should do the responsible thing with it. I mean, it is an ancient CPU, so off to recycling it will go. Just for the fun of it, I tested the batteries that were on these motherboards, and yeah, 0. 2.6 and 0. A fresh batch of steamy motherboards. And they look a lot better than when they went in. And also our fans came out pretty good. Might have to apply some elbow grease on that bigger cooler. So to dry these motherboards, I had them in the sun for 2 days. And I think they enjoyed hanging out in the backyard. I always put them with the boards facing downwards first so that the water can drain from that. Let's clean up this old cooler. Well, these came out pretty well. And here is our motherboards, enjoying a nice sunny afternoon delight. That VGA port definitely had something terrible happen to it. I ordered some RAM to test these boards, and it arrived. I choose the biggest and the smallest of each generation of DDR I could find, and now we can start testing. So I'm just going to use one of the CPUs from the 3 that we got. And this motherboard takes DDR2, so I'm going for a DDR2 module. And also let's test if that LNC power supply we got is any good. Well, didn't catch fire, so that's good. Let's add some cooling here and see if we can boot up this motherboard. Shorting out the power pin. No, that definitely does not sound good. I'm going to switch it off with a knife. This thing is done for. But I also bought new power supply to test this with. So let's see if we get anything now. Nothing, unfortunately. Maybe we can add a PC speaker to get some beep codes. Still nothing, and the board shuts down itself. Okay, let's try another RAM slot. So I was thinking maybe it's a bad RAM module. Going to try the bigger one. I have a 2 gig and a 256 meg one. Ah, that's much better. We have success. I was wondering why it kept turning off, so I thought I'll have a look in hardware monitor. Ah, that'll be why.
Oh, jeez, garbage. Flipping on.
Yes. Very smart move. Touch a 100 degrees Celsius CPU with your finger. But I got the cooler down a bit more firmly and we had it below 100. So let's test the next CPU. And the 3.06 Celeron works. That's good. And finally our last CPU. And it's a 1.6 Celeron. So we have 3 working CPUs. So far this is looking very promising. So let's bring in our second motherboard, and this is the DDR1 motherboard. Okay, got the green lid on the motherboard.
Ooh, that's bad. That's very bad.
Yeah, that is very, very bad. So what happened was I put the extra EPS connector into the 12 volt ATX connector, which should not be possible. But then again, this power supply should also have short circuit protection. So clearly corners were cut. And this is what the cable ended up looking like. So I am pretty sure this power supply should be fine. So I'm just going to try the correct ATX 12 volt connector and see if we have any luck. It will help if I plug in the monitor. But still nothing. So let's try another RAM slot. And maybe another RAM slot. Maybe that RAM slot will work. So maybe the smoke that came out of the power supply was the smoke that had it working. So I think it's best to switch to the known working motherboard and test if the power supply is still any good. Yeah, it will help if I put in some RAM. Ah, that's good. So the power supply survived that little smoking adventure. And on to motherboard number 3. Now this is the board with that funky VGA connector, which I think, to avoid any short circuits, I'll remove as carefully as possible. I'm making some progress there. Maybe some side cutters will be in order. Just need to shake off all the metal bits. And this is what it looked like in the end. I think it came out pretty well. Just need to make sure we don't have any bits of metal short circuiting this precious motherboard. And since we don't have a VGA port, I'm going to use a graphics card. But as much as I tried shorting out these pins here on the front, I couldn't get it to power up. We do have the LED on the motherboard, but the motherboard just won't power on.
Ah, jeez, the CPU is fucking warm.
So finally, I just want to make sure that our initial board is actually still working. And yes, so we have one working motherboard. So to fix this missing pin on the cooler solution, I have a very smart and effective way, which involves a zip tie. Yeah, nice and secure. So there's only one thing left to do with these two other motherboards. And that is the walk of shame. And this time it's not in the dishwasher, it's in the recycle bin.
So to summarize, what went down in the first episode of Untested? Well, I just wanted a case, but I went in, bought a lot of extra things and paid 560 Rand for that. Then I spent a further 360 Rand on RAM so I could test these motherboards, and another 360 Rand on power supplies, of which I nearly blew up one. Now the RAM and the power supplies I am keeping, so that's not a dead loss. I'll probably use them in a future project or in a future episode of Untested, but the only good thing that came from this was the one working motherboard, which I sold with all the CPUs, so the motherboard, CPU and 2 extra CPUs, for 203 Rand. Now if we do the maths on all that, you could say I spent 1,075 Rand to throw away 2 motherboards. I can't wait to do this again, so I'll keep my eyes on bid or buy for more untested hardware, and maybe there will be an Untested episode 2 sometime in future. Thank you for watching.